Once upon a time in a small village, there was a young man named David who had an unshakable dream: to become a carpenter like his father and create furniture that would bring beauty and comfort to people's homes. David was filled with passion, spending long hours each day practicing his craft, learning to carve intricate designs, and refining his skills. One day, an opportunity came his way. A wealthy merchant in the town requested a set of elaborate wooden chairs and a table to be displayed in his grand mansion. It was a huge honor, and the whole village cheered for David, believing he was destined to make them proud. David poured his heart and soul into the project. He worked tirelessly, every cut and every stroke filled with his love for the craft. But despite his best efforts, the furniture didn't turn out as expected. There were flaws in the wood, small cracks he hadn't noticed, and parts of the carvings were imperfect. When he finally delivered the furniture, the merchant was disappointed and refused to pay. David was devastated. All his hard work felt meaningless, and he was filled with doubt. "God," he prayed, "I thought you wanted me to succeed. Why did I fail?" In his despair, David considered giving up on his dream entirely. But then, a wise old woman named Ruth, who was known for her strong faith, saw David sitting alone. She walked over, sat beside him, and gently asked, "Why are you so downcast, David?" He explained his failure, his broken dreams, and his feeling that God had abandoned him. Ruth listened quietly and then said, "David, do you remember Peter?" David looked confused. "Peter, from the scriptures? The disciple?" "Yes," Ruth nodded. "Peter, who walked on water but sank because he doubted. Peter, who promised Jesus he'd never leave him but denied him 3 times. Peter failed, just like you feel you have. But in his failure, he learned to lean on God, not on his own strength. Through his humility, he grew stronger in his faith, and God used him to do miraculous things." David took in her words, though he still felt the sting of failure. "But how can God use me after this? I've already tried and failed." Ruth smiled. "God doesn't look at our successes or failures. He looks at our hearts. If you're willing to get up, try again, and trust Him, He'll guide you. But you must believe. Not in your talent alone, but in the one who gave it to you." Encouraged, David decided to give his dream another try, but this time with a renewed heart and a humble prayer. Instead of working to prove himself, he asked God to help him serve others with his gift. Slowly but surely, his craft improved, and he became known for his simple yet beautifully crafted furniture, filled with the peace and love of God. Years later, when David looked back, he saw how his failure had taught him humility and deepened his faith. He realized that sometimes, God allows us to stumble so we learn to trust Him, not ourselves. Through every failure, David learned to keep his eyes on Christ, and in doing so, he found a strength he never knew he had. His story reminded the village of the power of faith, not just in success, but in failure,